agent and an NYPD officer, and he joins us tonight. Dan, you just heard that the government of Canada saying there is no connection, no obvious connection to a jihadi group, and therefore there's no national threat. How do you assess that?
Well, you know, you never know, Tucker, because you don't know how many of these statements are political and how many of them are based on investigative leads. I mean, it's sad that we even have to think like that.
Right.
But when it comes to incidents like this, there's a reluctance, and I understand. I get it that maybe you don't want to get people, you don't want people to be afraid, whatever it may be. But we shouldn't be letting politics get in the way here. If it does turn out to be a mental health issue, I mean, it's as tragic either way. But he's not connected to a larger terror group, then that's fine. But I don't think being cryptic about it really helps.
Right. But why would that make us less afraid? I mean,
right.
There seems to be a theme here. Every big city in America, certainly on the coast, is packed with people with mental illness, diagnosed or undiagnosed, living on the street, and crimes. It's not an attack on anybody, an acknowledgement of reality. This kind of thing is increasing. So why are we not treating that like a crisis?
Yeah, we should. And you're right. The intent, I think, from this case is clearly there, regardless. Let's separate two things, Tucker. Intent and motive. Motive's still up in the air. Maybe mental health, maybe terrorism, maybe neither. We don't know that yet. But the intent is clearly there. And two things jump out to me just from the publicly available reporting. Number one of the witnesses at the scene said he hit, quote, every single thing. Now, obviously, if your contact points are people on the curb and you manage to hit just about every single one of them, clearly there's some evidence of intent there. Secondly, there's no evidence there of any screeching brakes, any effort to slow down whatsoever. So we clearly know that there was an intent to harm. And you're right. I mean, this is a big deal. We've seen an uptick in the use of vehicles to kill people in these horrible attacks. And again, being cryptic in the law enforcement arena, I just don't think helps in this new social media era.
So, I mean, attacks using vehicles have been increasing in frequency around the world. And I wonder if there comes a point where even the people in charge of our country admit that limiting access to the weapon, in this case a vehicle, isn't really a rational response. At some point you have to talk about why are people doing these things. Do you think this will spur that conversation finally?
Well, Tucker, I hope so. We have focused way too long on a kind of a fireman approach. In other words, putting out these fires afterwards with ridiculous measures that law-abiding people don't care about. Whether it's, I mean, it's not a gun control debate. I totally understand that, but we've seen it in the gun control arena as well. You have to focus on more of an arsonist approach. In other words, we should be starting investigatory fires here. We should be doing better control at our borders. We should be generating better surveillance capabilities on some of these people. We should develop a better warning system for mental health problems. And instead, you see these kind of, after-the-fact approaches, and they're just absurd. You've seen it, like I said, in the gun control debate over and over.
Right. It's mindless cable news chatter, focusing on the weapon to the exclusion of the motive. Dan, thank you very much. Great to see you, as always.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Well, as you heard, there's still a lot to assess in the wake of this attack. We don't know the motive for what happened in Toronto, but we don't need to in order to draw larger conclusions, some of them ominous. People didn't used to drive vehicles into crowds. They didn't used to shoot up schools either. Easy availability of weapons did not cause what happened today or what's been happening in this country for years. Fewer people drive than used to. Fewer families have guns at home. That is not the point, no matter what they tell you. The point is that more people want to hurt strangers than ever before for some reason. The bonds that hold society together are obviously fraying. Why is that? You'd think our leaders would be thinking hard about this question, since it's the only question that matters, and staying up late trying to come up with a solution, since that's their job. But they're not doing that. Instead, they're obsessing over trivia, fake Russian collusion, transgender bathrooms, fill in the blanks. They're creating diversions. At the same time, they're seizing the moment, using tragedies like this to strip the rest of us of our rights that our ancestors died for. Some wacko murders innocents. Okay, you're no longer allowed to defend yourself in your own home. That's the lesson we're drawing there. ISIS is recruiting on the internet? Great. A perfect pretext to shut down Twitter accounts we disagree with or demonetize your YouTube channel. Instead of fighting extremism, which is in abundance, the left uses the existence of extremism to shut down legitimate dissent and self-defense. In other words, for the crimes of